Good morning, everybody. 8:25 a.m. It is March 7th. Hope everybody had a good day yesterday. Um, let's get into watch list. What we got going on here. Of course, we got Powell testifying at 10 a.m. So I don't expect this market to do much. Okay, so what do we got? We got the VIX is up 0.97. 30-year bonds are being bought. Let's see. We got Nasdaq's up 0.26, the Russell's up 0.26, Bitcoin's up 0.18, ES up 0.15, dollar is up 0.13, Dow is up 0.07, crude is down 0.57%. Let's see, 10-year yield is down 1.28%, it's at 3.93. Okay. Let's look at the leaders and the laggards. We got Meta, mentioned a bunch of layoffs. They're up 2.26. Coin's up 0.61. Not much laggard to speak of. I mean, the only one's Tesla, down 0.66. Let's see, top sector stocks. Costco got an upgrade. It's up 0.74. Salesforce up 0.73. Any leader to speak of, it's just, what is that, Exxon, but it's barely down 0.24. Let's look at the sectors. Communications, that's Meta, up 0.58. Really no leaders. Any laggards? Energy slightly, but not really. We got Powell testifying at 10 a.m. today. So, sure, he's going to get hit by some of the Congress, but some tough questions. And probably won't make sense for the economy, some of these questions. But we'll have to see. It's definitely going to be a needle mover. But let's look at what happened yesterday. I'm just going to bring up the SPX because I talked about this level yesterday. I said 4080. That's the 4080 level that I had yesterday on my charts that I talked about. Could be resistance. We also had a trend line, but the 4080 was really the level. Why I picked that level was the monthly chart that I pointed out right here. I said this has been the resistance for 3 months, and then we opened here last month, and then look at that, came up here yesterday. So SPX 4080 was the level that we came to. Also have that trend line resistance. Q's had a trend line resistance too. Let's look at the SPY. So that came up to, what was the high yesterday? Was 407.45 on the SPY. And we do actually have a trend line here. So right here was a trend line that came under. Now I could fix this trend line now. Okay, let's go back. Okay, so today's Powell testify. I mean, we're really at, it couldn't go back into this range yesterday. We got rejected. So we're really a wait and see. Powell has the power to turn this right around. Depending on what he says, if he's going to be hawkish, if he's going to be dovish, really have to see, right? Let's look at the Qs. Qs, you can see, hit this trend line, got resistance there, right? So they sold off, right? So it was too far too fast. We literally, two huge green candles up. That's why I said getting long yesterday was not something I really wanted to. I wasn't interested in. Plus having Powell testify. Well, I did happen to call out the 4080 level. Unfortunately, wasn't able to make money off it. Sometimes your levels can work and you don't actually profit from them. So, and the coin, I can go into that later. That was a nice short-term day trade. and I was ready to enter, and I literally just was like waiting for one more candle, and then it started to go without me, and I was like, God. And then it went and hit my targets, not for the swing, for like a day trade. That was the strongest stock in my bag off relative to the market yesterday. And then I can explain why what it did after. But that was something I was like, oh man, I was like a second away from going long on that. And that's just how it works sometimes trading. So that's the cues. Let's look at the Dow. So the Dow pretty much hit that level I was talking about yesterday. This resistance level right here, 336, and had a nice little doji. So it came off the 61.8. You can call it this big range here at the bottom of this range. Really curious with the Dow if we push into here or not. Okay, big holdings in the Dow: Goldman Sachs, United Healthcare, Home Depot. So only 30 stocks that run this index. So be looking at that level. The Russell was very weak compared to the markets. It didn't go up like the markets did. It literally opened here and just sold off. So very interesting. Small caps. All right, let's go for that 10. Let's go for that 10, triple headed monster here. 10-year yield. Back to this little range here now. I'm kind of waiting. Probably waiting for Powell. Probably waiting for what direction we're going to go into, right? And let's go with the VIX. VIX has been definitely in a downtrend. I'll even put a trend line here, right there. All right. So, but definitely in a downtrend. Down at the lows here. Obviously, the higher the move, more than likely is a lower move in equities, but we have to see. Let's look at the dollar. Oh, good morning from Chi-Town. Rosita. Dollar kind of in a range right now. We're at 104.5. Just been in this range from about 10, what is this, 104 to 105.30 about. So that's what's been going on there. There's not much to talk about in the market today. Really, we're just waiting. We're balancing, right? I'll get into it. Let's get into coin real quick. I just want to talk about that real quick. Let's see here. You know what? I'll do that later. I'll do that. I have enough time. I'll do it later. Let's get into the just the market, because it's not going to be a big analysis because Powell's just everyone's waiting on Powell. Give me a sec here. So if you're looking at the real-time trading hours, we're one-time framing higher, so that's a higher low, that's a higher low, that's a higher low, right? That is bullish. Just looking at the real-time trading hours, right? However, we did gap up, and we went up right into the supply zone right here. But the price action was so weird. The volume was low, so the price action was weird. I was looking at that short, but I just didn't like it. We kind of triple topped. You can see it up here. See, 1, 2, 3 times we went up there, then we finally sold off. So I just didn't like the price action, even though it went into a supply zone. So right at the 20-day moving average on the daily, right there, we did hit this demand zone where I wanted to be long, but then the market just kind of just hung out at the lows. Towards the end, it did wind up filling the gap. So that's what happened in the ES. Let's look what's going on now. Okay, so the overnight's got this little squat session here. Let me get my trusty marker out here. So we got this little squat session going. We're in yesterday's range. We did not really come into this at all. We have a demand zone here that's still being held. right? So it's kind of waiting, and you can see the volume actually, because this is rolling 5 days, rolling week. So it actually, the most traded price ticked down to 39.47 just because of the rolls. This rolls every 5 days. So, but you can see the volume here. This is going to take over. This is going to move back up to here, which is bullish. So it should be, probably today will be around 40.60. The most traded price of the week. That should move up. Okay, which is going to be bullish. You're holding this level. Look, you made a move up here, and now look, we're holding it. That's bullish. Okay. So not much to read into this. We're in yesterday's range. This is for Powell. 10 a.m. Then the market's going to start to move. Could we make a little volatility off the open? Yes, but I'm not expecting much. Powell's holding this market in his hands right now. Nothing new, but this is how that's going to work. So nothing. All I can say is that move up, we're holding it. That's bullish right now. You have to just say that's bullish. Like I said, we came up to 40.82 in futures and then 40.80 in SPX. Okay, so that's kind of like what I saw. All right, so let's look at the NASDAQ. A similar situation. The NASDAQ, one time framing higher, that's just making higher low, higher low, higher low. We opened, obviously we came right up here. Okay, right up here, and then we sold off and we filled the gap, and we closed pretty much right at almost the gap fill and the 20-day simple moving average in this demand zone here. Okay, now let's look at what we're doing now. Very similar to the ES. Inside yesterday's range, no surprise there. You can see the most traded price of the week is down here at 119.70, but that should move up. I would suspect this to move up today. As soon as we open, we're probably going to balance waiting for 10 a.m. Even the 24-hour session has moved up, but that's where we're at here, really. Now, let me look at this real quick. So I didn't really mention this. It's not as pretty of a setup in the ES. You'll see what I mean what I'm talking about here. We have a weak low here in the NASDAQ. See that overnight low and yesterday's low? But we have a demand zone here. So if you're a scalper and we come down here, you could pop down here for a couple points, because there's just longs here that, remember, institutions don't buy like the exact lows, or they're not exact like short time day traders. That's why you look at these weak lows as weak. It doesn't mean they have to break, but the more times you come knocking, they could break. But you have a demand zone here, so it could be a quick move down, maybe get 10 15 points in the NASDAQ. But just pointing that out. That's the only technical nuance that I could really see, because otherwise I don't see much until Powell starts talking, and then the market's gonna have to digest what he says, right? So a lot of waiting that's gonna be done. A couple things I wanted to talk about that's given me the luxury. Let's just look at some longer time charts here and see where we're really at in the grand scheme of things. So this is the ES. So price right now is at 40.58. We're about right here. Okay. And again, white profile is this year. The heat map profile is a year ago from today. Okay, so you could just see the most trader price of this year, which is 40.18, and then the most trader price of the rolling year, which is 39.89. These levels, right? It's the tipping point of our market. You hold above here, we could go back up to here. Like I said, I have a bias eventually to go. We're gonna be short, but it doesn't mean we can't go up in the meantime. However, if we come back down here and break these levels, we're gonna start heading lower. That's why these levels are just so important right now. This right here, this is everything in the market right now. And you can see this last month's most traded price was 41.28.50. You can see it right here, right? So and you can see the spike in right here. So that's the definite move up. We're going to 41.28, 41.30. That's going to be our stop. And then if we break this, probably make a little pit stop, 39.55. And then you got big nodes down here, right here, right here. So we can go 39.11, then 38.76, and then we can go to 38.26. So that's basically this broad picture of the market. Okay, let's look at the NASDAQ. Now the NASDAQ, you can see it. Okay, right here. The most traded price of the week and the last year are identical. They're identical. So it's 120.91. That's the price. Price is right here right now. Okay. And I have 4-hour candlesticks here. Each blue profile is a week. Each outlined white profile is a month. So I can just see weekly and monthly, right? So just if I wanted to really quickly look at it, I'd be like, oh, that's this month's low. And then the next month, February's low. And then this month, you put a new low in. But last week is here's low, and then this week is here. So that's how you can really quickly just see with the weeks and months very quickly in the same chart. That's why I like using this chart. So this is the tipping point, right? And we are above that now. But you see this big level here, this big node here. That's 125.45. That's probably, if we keep going higher, where we're going to stop, 125.45. However, if we come back down to this big monster level, the 120.91, we could hang around here, and then we probably, could find us either here or 115.24, which was this month's most traded price right here. Because this is the big tipping point right here, this here. We go back under this again, we're most likely going to hit these lows. So that's what I'm seeing. I'm just looking if I see anything else to note. Not really. All right, let's go back. Let's go into talk about. I could bring up the coin, and I want to talk about. Give me 1 second here. Talk about something I like to look at. It's very handy to give you where see strength and weakness in the market. So I can bring you back over here, right? So let's look at something. I'm going to bring you guys to the sectors, and just to give you an idea very quickly, I love this moving average. Okay, now notice this. call it, I'll just call it, for lack of a better, like a hot pink line, right? That is the 10-week EMA. Okay. And it's a good barometer for what the market's gonna do. And because it's a weekly chart, right? But anytime, usually you want to get into a position trade or something like that, you want to be above that or below that if you're going to short or be, you know, long. Now let's just look at the technology. The technology sector makes about 26-27% of the S&P 500. That's Apple, Nvidia, Microsoft, okay, big boys. But just look at this 10-week EMA, right? So look at this, and you go by the closes. Okay, so check this out. We were below it, right? Closed below it, closed below it, closed below it. And then look what happened. We closed above it, right? Dipped below it, closed above 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 it. We've never closed below this yet. See how it just followed this 10-week EMA? Right? So technology, right? It's been strong since the beginning of the year. Let's look at communications. Communications, right? Has not. This is now, it had 1 week close under it slightly, and then we're above it again, right? Let's look at semis. Semis have been very strong, right? Well, semis, look at that. Wicked right off it, wicked right off it. So we're still above it, right? And you're going to notice what I'm talking about, because tech, and look at real estate. That's defensive, right? Close below it, close below it, close below it. See the pattern? Staples. It's defensive. Close below it, close below it. Get the point? All right. Industrials. Industrials has been riding above it, right? Healthcare. Another defensive stock, right? Look at that. Close below it, close below it, close below it, way below it. Basic materials. That's the only one that I'm like, oh, all right, that's a little more defensive. That is above it. But all the other defensive ones are below it. Utilities, defensive. Look at that. Close below it, close below it, close below it, right? Discretionary. Now, discretionary is Amazon, Tesla, Home Depot, right? Closed right on it, closed above it, and we're right there again. Because Tesla's a little weak, right? It's not as strong. Financials. Financials has been battling it, right? But still above it. And then energy. That was the leader last year. This year, really going on both sides. That's really telling you, because crude has just been literally in range. So look at that. That is just indecision. But now it's starting to test it again. So that's just something you can see as a barometer of what the market's really doing. Where's the market's money right now? I think it's great because you could just look at it and just get a quick, oh, okay, it's below the 10-week EMA, it's above the 10-week EMA. Pretty cool little indicator just to give you a gauge of where we're at. It's just amazing how gets respected. So if you're a position trader could be like you're just going for the next couple months. You want to go long something, okay, the 10-week EMA will be your stop loss. And you go by the close. You don't go by like if it because the close would be a weekly close. So just thought that was interesting. I wanted to point that out yesterday. I forgot. Okay, so you can see defensive stocks have not crossed their 10-week EMAs yet. So the money's still in tech right now, but it's very close. It's very close. We're at the deciding point, right? So let's look at coin, right? And what it did yesterday. And I talked about the 67.5 level, right? And I said because that had big volume right here. It's the largest volume right here. You can see it. And I said I want it to be long, right? Now, there's two different things, and I didn't probably mention this yesterday, was I did have a plan to go long at 65.51. Okay, I did have a plan to do a day trade, and I can shorten the time frame here to like 5 minutes and show you guys here of why from yesterday. Let's zoom into yesterday, right? This was my shot. I actually like using a 3-minute chart for my triggering, but so if I go to into a 3-minute, let's just go over here, right? So 65.51 was my level, right? Right here, I had my shot, and I was looking, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna get long. But then what stopped me a little bit was the market, and then we just exploded. We just exploded, and then we came up to 67.5, which I said I wanted to see a break. Well, then I was looking again. Now I had to go by what the market was doing, so I'm like, all right, is it really smart to get long at 67.5? And notice this price action right in here when it came up to 67.5. I'll change it to candles. Probably easier to see. Okay, so here's my level. So 65.1 was a day trade level for me. Okay, now I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna make this a 15-minute chart real quick. Just make it cleaner. Okay, so we can see the price action a little easier together. Okay, so 65.1 I wanted to get long, and I waited, and I was like, and then I waited too long, and then it was shot straight up. I would have took my first target here, and then here it still did punish somewhat right here with this candle. That's some of that selling from the other day. So that selling that was in here, this big selling volume, it did, probably some people had to liquidate their shorts here. But then what's interesting is, hold on one second. But then what's interesting about that was whenever you do that and you break out of this nice support, this nice resistance, right? And you can't go farther. See, this was a test. This was a look above and fail. That's what you call it. Because this was a good balance range for 2 weeks. We broke out of it, hurt these guys a little bit, but we couldn't go higher, right? So what did it do? It rolled over. Now, what I expect now from coin, even though right now it's up pre-market, more times than not, when you do that, okay, when you do a look above and fail, when it's go here and you're testing outside of this range right here, this range is right here, right? What happens is when you do this and start coming back in, these guys are now going to have to cover. So I would expect, this is usually what happens. You go to at least to the other side of balance. You usually go to, so look at 57.9, 56.89. If this market's a little weaker today, I would expect that to get tested, the other end of balance. And then you could fall further to 53.93. Because then you're getting rid of all these longs. So that I'm really watching this to really see. Okay, it's just got my eye right now, because it's a perfect setup when you have the most traded price of the week and the most traded price of the month work. That's why this happened, this move. But then it couldn't sustain the move higher. So now when you go like that, now you got the longs that just were long that could get that could now have to liquidate, and you're going to here, and then you test this side. And if you, one more thing, the length of this range, which is about from 56.89 to 67.5, let's just say it's $11. If you do go down, expect an $11 move down. So you like to equal this range to how far you would go down. So you can go $11 lower, let's say to 45. Now, that doesn't mean it has to happen. That just means if it really has a move down lower, usually you get the width of the range lower. Usually doesn't mean it has to happen, like I said. But just thought that I want to explain that. Not sure if that helps anybody, but we can see right now where coin is pre-market right here. So coin's kind of hanging out here at the lows from yesterday. See? It's hanging out here. So, have to see. And I'm not going to do much right now because of Powell speaking. I mean, this doesn't really make sense. We're kind of just waiting for him to talk. So, that is it for me today. Hopefully, this gave some insight to some people. Give me a comment, like, or subscribe. I will add something later if there's something important to note. But stay patient, stay green, and I'll see you guys tomorrow, girls tomorrow.